Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you. My name is Roy. I'm a director of product at Appsflyer, leading our iOS solutions. And I'm going to talk with you about the evolution of user acquisition in the privacy era. So prior to that, a bit about Appsflyer. For those that are not familiar with Appsflyer, the leading MMP with more than $294 million in funding, more than 1,300 employees in 19 global offices, and 65% market share of the MMP market. We like to see ourselves as an open, flexible platform that fuels the modern marketing stack. At the heart of everything is our attribution engine. On top of it, an operating system that lets apps run on top of it. We have our own apps, such as Analytics, Predict, and other solutions, but we also have APIs that let third parties build apps on top of Appsflyer for mutual customers. We have a lot of customers. It varies from indie developers to enterprise customers, from mobile gaming into traditional and mobile first. And these are just a few of our great customers. So let's get to it. A bit of a background into what's going on and what has happened since what I believe you all know as iOS 14. Right? So Apple with iOS 13 has introduced what's considered the biggest privacy step that they've taken. This is called ATT. And again, for those that are, by mistake, are not familiar with ATT, it's the App Tracking Transparency, which enforces that you as a developer, as an app developer, must require an explicit consent from the user in order to track it according to Apple's definitions. Now, ATT in iOS 14 has had significant impact over our industry, the marketing and mobile measurement industry. This includes attribution, but not only. This also includes remarketing. This also includes first-party data and the ability to know more about your users. And this also includes targeting of ad networks. These were all severely impacted. And kind of as a solution to everything that was introduced with iOS 13, they've introduced Ad Network, which again, I hope you guys are all familiar with. This is Apple's solution to the major shift that they have done on iOS 13. Ad Network really just scratches the surface of the capabilities that we as an industry had before. Ad Network only covers attribution, i.e. marketing performance. It doesn't cover the rest of what I've mentioned, remarketing, targeting, first-party data. It only covers attribution. And even that, not as good as it used to be. Let's talk a bit more about the impact of iOS 14. I'd like to show you the point of view from an end user experience. We're not talking about app developers. We're not talking about ad networks. We're talking about end users. And you can see they have also benefits, but also downsides. So in terms of privacy, it really aligns with Apple's strategy to make the iPhone about you, to make the iPhone you. You share your fingerprints, you share your wallet, you share your face recognition, you share everything. And in order for you to keep doing this stuff, you need to know that it's private. You need to know that the iPhone, your information stay there. So you as a user need to be confident that what you put in the iPhone stay there. And more than that, they've also introduced ways for you to know that if something doesn't stay on your iPhone, it's explicit, you know about it. So for example, the nutrition labels that they've introduced of what developers collect about you. They need to explicitly tell you what they want to collect about you, and obviously ATT, which I've mentioned. And the last, they really want to make it about the user and to give you the choice. And it's apparent, right? So these are all good things that really align with Apple's strategy. But then we can see that there are also downsides into everything that has happened with iOS 13. And again, I'm only talking about the end user experience. We'll get to the app developers and ad networks in a second. But in terms of the end user, product discovery, the fact that ad networks now cannot no longer show you the right ad at the right time to the right person really affects the ability of customers to discover new products. And this is good experience. Second, deferred deep linking. Deferred deep linking refers to the ability to open an app in the context of the ad that I came from. I'll give you an example. If I saw and clicked on an ad for a specific hotel, and then I download the app, the obvious experience that I would want to have is that when I open the app, I would see the same hotel. This is no longer possible in most cases. And this really hurt user experience. And last is promotions. You know, I added to cart something, and maybe the price wasn't right for me. But then 2 hours later, if I would see an ad for a 20% discount, yeah, I would complete that purchase. But again, this remarketing has basically almost died since iOS 13. So let's look at it from app developers and ad networks point of view, right? So I've mentioned these before, and these were significantly impacted, right? The ability to do remarketing, targeting, attribution, first party. And if all of that is not bad enough, Android is coming. Da, da, da. But, let's stay optimistic. I'm optimistic. Let's stay optimistic. And I have reasons to stay optimistic. And these are 3. One is Android Privacy Sandbox. You know, people like, for those that have heard about it, Google is going to do the same in a matter of approximately 2 years. But again, people like to compare, oh, they're doing the same thing as iOS. I want to assure you that we've looked into, and we've talked to Google, and Android Privacy Sandbox is nothing alike SKAd Network. I'm going to deep dive. I don't have the time to actually go through the whole thing, but the highlights. And then we have iOS evolution. Both iOS, SKAd Network is getting better and better. SKAd Network 4.0 was recently introduced. And then also MMP and modeling solutions are really getting better. And so I'm optimistic on that front as well. And last, obviously, MMP attribution. So let's start with Android Privacy Sandbox. Unlike SKAd Network, ad networks are going to be able to know on a user level up to 7 events, up to 7 conversion events. This is huge. This really impacts the ability of ad networks to then optimize and learn a bit about their users, about what ad worked for them. This is the biggest item here. And this is done in privacy-centric manner. They do not know who the user is on the advertiser side. Google only tells them, your user also made a purchase on the advertised app. So that's great. Second, almost unlimited breakdown. So I assume you guys struggle with SKAd Network and the ability that you don't have information about whether it's geo, the country, or ad set, or creative. It's almost unlimited campaign breakdown with Google Privacy Sandbox. And more than that, also post-install attributes, be it device model, age segmentation, gender segmentation. All of that is going to be available in the aggregate reporting. And last, close to real-time reports. Again, a huge difference from SKAd Network, which, by the way, if you've noticed on SKAd Network 4.0, the data freshness has actually gotten worse, right? The least that we can now have data for is at least 48 hours. Now they suggest aggregate reporting of close to real time. More things coming from Privacy Sandbox. One, each ad network is going to receive attribution for themselves, but only MMP is going to determine, i.e. advertisers have the power to know about the installs. Look back window, it's not fixed. The advertiser can control it via the MMP. Super important. And last, web to app is supported. But I've mentioned that it's not only about attribution, it's also about remarketing and targeting and first party. And we can see that Google also introduced 2 new solutions, which are pretty cool. I think they're, just getting started, but I think these are pretty cool solutions. I'm not going to deep dive. I invite you guys to go over it. It's documented publicly. But they have a solution for remarketing, and they have a solution for targeting that's not only own app context, but targeting that you can build from cross-app context. And last but not least, I've talked about deferred deep linking and deep linking. This is going to be supported with Google. Again, privacy-centric. They already have the solution. It doesn't seem like they're going to kill it. So this is a great thing for us as an industry. Cool. So we've covered Google. Let's talk about iOS evolution. I'd like to see it in threefold. One is SKAd network. Let's look at SKAd network only. Since iOS 14 was introduced, a lot has happened with SKAd network, a lot of different features. I only wrote some of them, right? So view-through versus click-through, and contributors, and left the most major milestone, in my opinion, is SKAd network 4.0. It gives us, SKAd network 4.0, I'll cover shortly, gives us 35 days post-install of LTV measurement, to some extent, not to the granularity that we would want, but to some extent, we have up to 35 days of user measurement. Again, huge difference. They're changing the campaign ID from 2 digits to 4 digits. That means that if you didn't have country, geo granularity until today, in SKAd network 4.0, this would be supported. This is great. It kind of depends on the ad network, but I believe all ad networks are going to adopt this. But more than that, ad set ad, all of these are going to be supported thanks to the change in SKAd network 4.0. And last is also web to app. SKAd network is going to support web to app, which hasn't been supported until today. Modeling solution. Now this, I think, is just getting started. Right? So I think prior to iOS 13, we had so much data that modeling was a nice to have. People were doing it, but not all people were doing it. And it wasn't as necessity as it is today. And we can see it going stronger and stronger and stronger. We can see solutions on top of SKAd network and on top of MMP, null modeling, LTV modeling capabilities, and prediction. This has become more and more and more important that I think it has to be part of every marketer stack today. And let's talk about the ad networks, because in the end, a lot of what we do is actually we are trying to help the ad network optimize the best they can. So a lot of also these improvements are also helping ad networks. So one, publisher adoption, we can see it getting better and better, which was pretty slow to adopt. 2, SKAd network LTV, which I've just mentioned. I think this is going to help ad networks a lot with what they do. And geogranularity, again, optimization of the ad networks. So with that, I also want to talk about MMP attribution. I've mentioned a lot of attribution methods. I've mentioned SKAd network. I've mentioned Google Privacy Sandbox. I've mentioned Refer. I mentioned modeling solutions. There are also consented users attribution, and there's also Apple Search Ads, which has its own attribution solution supported by MMPs. So many attribution solutions, and as marketers, as app developers, we want to see the single source of truth. We want to see the actual marketing picture. And that's where we at Appsflyer came up with what we refer to as single source of truth. This really, really helps us to uniquely attribute a single user only once from all of attribution methods that are out there. And today it's right for SKAd network, but tomorrow it's also going to be right for Privacy Sandbox on Android. All of that really helps us to understand the benefits and the greater picture of all of the attribution methods and uniquely count a user only once. So with that, I'd like to conclude. I want to say thank you. Follow me on Twitter, although it's Hebrew only, so disclaimer. But thank you.